Hey guys, this is Tony with Inner Geek Designs. Today I'm back with another Inner Geek podcast. Today I want to talk about Adobe MAX. It was just last Monday, on Tuesday, Wednesday, I think. But I want to give my thoughts on it, my review of it, what's the state of Adobe, what's the state of the apps, what was good changes, what were bad changes, and go through some of that. Right now I'm doing notes for another YouTube video, so if you hear any pen clicking or writing down, that is what is going on. Overall, Adobe MAX this year was okay. I would say it was just okay. I think there were some good apps that were added. There were some good changes that needed to happen, but a lot of it felt kind of like catch-up, if that makes any sense. The big thing that came out of it that was like a headline was Adobe Photoshop for the iPad. Yeah, that did happen, and it's coming out next year. But Affinity Photo is also on the iPad, and that was on the iPad 2 years before Photoshop finally came out. And I think this is what is happening, is Adobe is getting pressure from the outside. Their competitors are starting to catch up to them, because Adobe's just been kind of stagnant for years. They've kind of just been getting by enough with updates to make it seem like there's changes when there's really not much changes. And this has kind of pissed me off the last couple years. Their updates have been so-so. They've been killing popular apps or apps that people use with no signs of bringing them back, actually, and pushing apps that people want to use. This year there's a heavy focus also on Adobe XD, which, nothing against XD, but they're putting a lot more focus on it than any of their other apps. I know that's where the future's going, is experience design, XD, and all that stuff, but they put more focus on that than their flagship apps. I know Adobe's trying to make it their new flagship app, but it seemed kind of forced. The audience didn't seem that receptive to it. I think XT has a cult following. It's got a good following. I know people that love it and use it every day. But Adobe seems to be making it bigger than they want it to be. Photoshop kind of got shafted this year, is maybe the best word. It got some tweaks that I felt were needed, and one that I don't think that was needed, which is the shift key is no longer for doing changes to shapes. I don't know how I feel about this. I've used it since the update, and I am so memory remembered that if I'm in Photoshop and I need to hold shift to keep retaining the shape, it throws me off. I think Adobe needs to take a big step back and make sure that all the apps operate the same. This is something they've needed for years, and they still have not gotten there. Basic things like keyboard shortcuts are the same. Your T key in any software brings up the type tool. Your space bar, when you hold it down, brings up the hand tool. These are things that are needed. And it's still not there. The transform tool works different in almost every app. The selection tools work different in almost every app, which is kind of needed, but we need some similarities somewhere. Adobe's just not doing that yet. Illustrator, it got some nice bumps, got a little bit smarter, and then they're doing a new drawing app. What was the project called? It was Project Gemini. I have mixed feelings about it. I kind of like the two apps separate, but again, Affinity Draw has vector and roster abilities, and now they're trying to compete with that. Adobe's playing serious catch up with Affinity. They will not admit it, but they are. If you look at Gemini and Photoshop on the iPad, and then look at Affinity's iPad programs, you will see they are playing catch up. They are scared of those apps becoming the go-to. Even Procreate, I think they're scared of. They just won't admit it. But they're scared. They want to still be the go-to. And they also did something that I'm not comfortable with, which is a lot of Creative Cloud integration. More than before. Like, they heavily hinted on that you need Adobe Creative Cloud to make all these apps work. Which I think is maybe not a safety measure, maybe more of a DRM perspective to make sure that people get these pirated versions of Creative Cloud. They're not getting the full use out of it unless they have the paid subscription, which I think is good. It's kind of needed. They also announced some new things in their software that is more of their Sensei, which is their AI program in the apps, and some of it seems like it's AI and some of it seems like it's just smart programming. For example, they have an Adobe Illustrator. If you have a similar shape, you can select it and say global editing, and it'll turn it into a pseudo symbol, and you can edit it all the same shapes. This is good. I think they needed something similar to this because a lot of people don't use symbols. I don't use symbols. It's kind of clunky. It's kind of, you have to go make a symbol, bring it back in, and etc. It's a work. And it could be AI, but it's pretty dumbed down AI if it is AI. This is my thought. I think if they want AI, they need to crank it in there. They said they use some new stuff in Premiere Pro and After Effects as well for Sensei, but it just looks like the same stuff, just a little bit better. If that's how they're going to use machine learning, fine. But maybe you shouldn't have just made it a big thing a couple years ago that you're going to have AI inside your programs and it's going to be better for all designers and so forth. It kind of feels forced. It kind of feels not natural. It kind of feels like it's just a cheap way to say that we have AI in our programs. Adobe Dimension, which a program I am keeping my eye on for it to become a full-fledged rendering program, which I think would be great for designers to have. Designers need to learn 3D rendering. It's coming. It's needed. It's got some new features in it that I'm okay with, but not happy with. Like, I still want to be able to import CAD files into it, but we can't do that yet. It doesn't link to any 3D program. Like, I can't draw in Maya and then bring in a Dimension. Still can't do that. Or even an open source program like Blender can't do that. So there's things we need. But they did show some stuff with AR that looked really cool, and I'm excited for. I'm betting big on AR versus VR. AR just has more applications. It's easier for people to understand. You don't have to put a headset on. You don't have to feel closed off from the world. So AR has a lot more possibilities than VR does. Fight me if you want, but that's what I'm sticking with. But overall, this Adobe MAX just seemed so-so. It seemed like a lot of stuff just to kind of enhance workflows. Which, we got that last year too. When are we going to get some features that really just drop jaws? We're not getting that yet. We haven't got that in a while. We haven't got that since Creative Cloud came out. Adobe's just kind of stagnant. Maybe they need more competitors. Because once Adobe has a competitor, they got fire under their ass. And they need to make changes fast. And we haven't got that in years. It's kind of sad. I love Adobe. I love their apps. I'm kind of stuck in their ecosystem. There's nowhere else I can get these complete suite of apps and use every one of them integrated with each other. So kind of stuck with it. But I think Adobe really needs to look and see what they want to do, because they're kind of all over the place right now. They got XD, they got Photoshop, they got Illustrator. They've got everything for everyone, and a lot of it just didn't get the limelight this year. Photoshop got a spot, but it was short. Lightroom got a spot. It was short. Lightroom was probably the worst. Lightroom just got, hey, we can now do this and this. We can do, what did they show? We can do cross-device saving. We can do tilt and shift automation with Sensei. It was just like 2 or 3 things and it was done. Same thing with Premiere. Premiere Pro, the best video editing software to date. Fight me about it. Didn't get much at all. It got maybe 1 or 2 things, and then it was done. And then it had to go to After Effects. Premiere Rush, their new, simpler, I would call a Final Cut Pro killer app, got more limelight than Premiere, which is fine. They want to get those YouTubers and those content creators on board. I use Adobe Clip right now, and if I can get Rush, I would probably use it. It seems like a better app than Clip ever was and will be. This is another thing I have to say about Adobe. They are making too many apps and then abandoning them. Like Clip is dead. When Gemini comes out, Draw and Sketch are done. There's no reason to use them anymore if there's an app that can do all of it. They're just making apps and killing them. And it's not fair to people that use these apps. Like Adobe Muse is dead. Adobe Muse was a great app. They never gave it the chance it needed. And it would have made web design for graphic designers easier if they could have worked on it and got some of the kinks out of it. But they didn't. Another thing I haven't seen in years on Adobe MAX stage is Dreamweaver. What happened to Dreamweaver? Why is it not on the stage anymore? Do they not care about these people? Do they just know these people will keep using it regardless? Or have they just given hope on coders? I don't know. I'm a little disgruntled with Adobe, but it's only because I like Adobe. I want to see them do better. I want to see them get better. I honestly could not remember everything that happened this Max because it was just so underwhelming to me. I didn't say anything. I only saw one thing, and that was the AR demo. Other than that, everything else was just like, okay, I guess. Okay, I guess. It was all just enhanced workflows this year. But Adobe's kind of lost my faith when it comes to new apps, if they'll keep supporting it. That's how often they have just abandoned apps. But maybe that will change. Also, they integrated all their apps with their new Adobe font, which was Typekit. Again, another program that's killed or changed names. Adobe font. And it's all integrated. You have all the app fonts for free because no one really paid for them because, you know, designers. That's going to do it for this one, guys. I just wanted to kind of give you my thoughts on Adobe MAX this year. Kind of underwhelming. Maybe better next year. Again, I think Adobe's doing a bunch of catch up. Hope this podcast helped you guys. If it did, just reach out. Whatever social media you find this on, wherever platform you find this on. Rate and review the podcast if you want. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.
The podcast you just heard was published with Anchor. Got something you want to say to the creator of this show? Send them a voice message using the Anchor app, free for iOS and Android.